I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show.
Hello, everyone. It's been a while since I've done a solo episode. So here we are. A lot of life is happening left and right. I'll catch you up on some personal stuff in the next episode. Excited to share that. But today, what we're going to talk about is really exciting for me because I have been out and about. I've been in a lot of cities, talking to a lot of people, a lot of audiences, companies, and we're going to talk about the lay of the land. What's going on in the world, not just with AI, but what does this all mean? The big picture, as well as what we should be focused on, what we should know, what we can do, how to reframe all of this. I promise not to get super techie, and that's not my world anyway. I'm a translator more than a technologist and always have been. Simplifier, right? A educator. So that's what I'm excited about. I've never seen anything like this, what we're experiencing right now, and it is such a huge opportunity. There's so much opportunity to convert a lot of that fear into what I call kind of that trampoline versus trap moment. We can be using this moment in time with technology and where humanity is to accelerate personally as well as our businesses. So regardless if you're in a big company, small company, entrepreneur, this is exciting. Okay, so what we're going to do is demystify, give you kind of the trends of what I'm seeing out there, hopefully help you feel more comfortable about what you need to know, what to focus on. There's so much kind of hype and a lot of headlines, and so that's what I'm excited about. So this is a total renegade moment in time. So what makes me qualified to talk about this, right? I am in this kind of cauldron. So for 25 years, yes, I've worked in technology, especially in those moments of big waves, right? Something big is happening, whether it was social communication back in the mid 2000s, even the .com, like early 2000s. So I'm very familiar, and I've built my career and businesses around that edge, that kind of bleeding, exciting, uncharted territory edge. So that's number one, as a 3-time founder. Number two, I'm on the board of an AI company, have been for 4 years, investor in AI companies. So I'm seeing that side, both from VCs to angel investing to that startup environment, all the way even into big corporate, working with big corporate brands in different sectors and industries, speaking to all these different companies right now, from the C-level all the way to the more junior levels. And so I've just kind of have my finger on the pulse. And then you add to that, I'm surrounded by experts. And so I'm so grateful to learn from them. I don't claim to be an AI technologist expert, but I am a translator. I'm getting information from so many different sources. I also have my financial Series 65 license. So looking at the perception on Wall Street, very familiar with what's happening, from those trends. And so, just kind of in this spot and have a lot of experience with big waves and, disruption. And there's nothing like this that I've seen before, but there are a lot of similarities to what I saw early 2000s to what we saw in the .com early days of the internet, all the way back. I'm kind of a historian and geek out about this stuff. It's important to understand where we came from. How did we get here? And where is here, right? In the show notes, I'm going to link to an awesome episode. It's Mark Andreessen talking through kind of the evolution of the internet, even pre everything that we knew, like AOL and so on and so forth. And this helps you understand the trends. It helps you understand that this moment in time, very like from an amplifier or a multiplier effect, it's much bigger, but there are a lot of similar dynamics. And so, I'm going to link to that because I love the episode. It's kind of like a timeline. Okay. Also, I think it's important to know the relevancy factor, right? A lot of people right now are kind of self-selecting. Oh, I don't need to be focused on AI. whether it's individually or it's within my company, in the job, in the role that I'm in. Not the case. And I'll explain why. Please just keep an open mind. I promise I won't start talking about NVIDIA's stock price or the things that we don't have control over. I'm going to be specifically sharing the things that I'm seeing and hearing. I don't have all the answers, but I have a lot of questions and I've been asking them and I've been hearing a lot. Okay, so please, can we just pinky swear? Open mind. An open mind is an innovative mind. AI, let's just level set for a second. What if we don't even think about it as technology necessarily, but think of it in terms of talent and time? So we are multiplying talent in a radical way. That's what AI can do. And we're manipulating time in a way we've never been able to do before. So when it comes back to relevancy, how does this matter to me? Why does this matter? What should I know? Don't worry about just the heavy tech side of AI and agents and all the things that you're probably hearing and reading. First, just reframe it, right? Talent and time. We're open sourcing our most precious resources, and that is exciting. Imagine the opportunity, right, of radically multiplying talent, manipulating time. So I talk a lot about bandwidth versus capacity, and I won't get into that. You can listen to previous episodes if you want on that front. But we all have 24 hours in a day, right? That's our bandwidth. We all have them. We can choose how we spend them. Our capacity is unlimited. It's our potential. It's infinite. Now, our capacity is what we're uniquely qualified to do. This is where the greatest ROI is for us, our earning potential, our joy, our health. It's just like where the amazing magic is, what you're uniquely qualified to do. So the higher we can fly, the better. But what happens, especially right now, what I'm seeing, I was in 7 cities in 10 days, visiting and speaking to all these different types of companies in different sectors and different audiences. The number one trend I'm seeing is people are equally burnt out and bored, right? The number 2 trend is people are afraid. And they're afraid in terms of clinging toward relevancy. There's so much shifting and shakeup going on. I get it. So what we're doing is we're trying to jam more in those 24 hours in a day to stay relevant, to cling toward what can I do, more. But that is trapping us with our capacity. So think of capacity, like an airplane. When an airplane is flying at altitude, it's most efficient, right? That's where we want to be. Well, with AI, unlocking and unleashing more talent and time in a way we've never been able to do before, that's great because AI is designed to compete with our bandwidth, and it's actually very helpful from a capacity standpoint. So it's not just task-oriented, and it can help us with automation and start to accelerate the process of things we used to be able to do. It's also a thought partner. It's also able to really help us in our unique cognitive human abilities, which we can charge premiums for, and we can remain highly relevant, right? So that's one way to kind of think about AI. You don't need to be a technologist right now or understand the depths of technology necessarily to be valuable and to be able to use AI. But you do need to be able to translate and understand the meaning that these tools have for your day-to-day as a person, as well as a professional in your company, right? And that's the thing. We are going to get so niche and so customized when it comes to AI. Nobody is an expert in everything when it comes to AI because it's like early days with social communication. When I was working in the NBA, this is an example and a similarity I'm seeing. We were trying to bucket social media, right? And for that matter, even before that, I was the kind of figure it out person. Oh, Amy Jo will figure it out. Digital signage, and then mobile marketing, and then here's this new thing, give it to her. Here's this new thing, give it to her. So I was so curious and so excited about the unknown is that it kept coming my way. Well, what we like to do is we bucket things because we like departments and we like things to be orderly and compartmentalized. Well, social media, it was like, okay, is it in marketing? Should it be in interactive? Should it be in IT? Should it be in PR? Like, who's going to own, does our web team own it? Does our partnerships team, because we're selling against it, own it? There's new revenue here. It's new real estate. There was a land grab, it's healthy tension left and right. Well, what we learned is that it didn't belong in any specific department per se. It was more communication, right? It's more like the telephone than the TV. And so every single discipline within the company needed it. Whether it was PR, absolutely. Social communication to connect with journalists, to be able to, create your own earned media, right? For marketing, 100% we know that. For even predictive analysis and research and customer service and HR, everybody needed it. Similar with AI, right? It's like oxygen, not like a new department or a thing that someone owns. It's not just a product, right? Even if you're at a company that's building an AI product in-house, you still need AI for all the other disciplines. And so we're going to get very niche in terms of the specific tools and the productivity and usability. But don't fool yourself in thinking that this is just going to be over here in this box. It's going to bleed. It doesn't fit nicely anywhere. So kind of keep that in mind too. Okay, so let's kind of bring it back up to a 30,000 foot level. As I'm traveling around, speaking to all these different audiences, every sector, from entrepreneurs to corporate to military we've got healthcare, we've got, the startups and the VCs, and it is so diverse. But the thing I keep hearing when I say, what's that thing you've been thinking about doing, that why not now idea, people are experimenting with AI, or they want to be. They're trying to figure out how to even get started. And there's this feeling of, I'm so behind. And we've seen this before, right? We saw this with companies building websites or starting their email lists or social media or individuals, right? And you think, I'm so behind. And what I saw specifically with the adoption of social media was the early days. No, there was still a lot of experimenting. Those are the early adopters. Let's just take a timeline. Let's say pre-2008, right? In 2008, there was a big election. Obama used social, and you could argue that it helped him get into office, especially Twitter. And then there was more awareness, but it was still early. And I was already using it and thinking, oh, we're a little later in the game. But still the mass adoption was not fully taking charge, both companies and individuals. Then 2009, 10, 11, 12, I'm thinking people have missed the bus, right? No, that window was still open. And a lot of people, it wasn't just me, but a lot of people thought, I'm too late, I might as well not even try now. That wasn't the case. And then there came a point where it was like, yeah, you did eventually miss it, right? You have not missed this. You do need to get started and be experimenting though. And I'm speaking to this from a perspective of both individually as well as whatever your career is. Even if you're a solopreneur or working in a nonprofit, working for a small company, a big company, whatever it is, we need to be experimenting, right? So that window has not closed, but eventually you will be behind. So what I learned was I was so kind of early, especially with the social media side, is that 5% edge I had became a 500% edge really quickly, to the tune of launching a big part of my career, writing a New York Times bestselling book, right? Renegades Write the Rules. If you're new to the podcast or new to my world, welcome. And we have a book that actually is the jetpack that's on the cover. But embracing it early has been large in part what the reason I'm even here. The launch pad for me. So the ability and the leverage here the ability to accelerate and the leverage here is huge. We're going to see leapfrogging, big companies that are really slow to make turns and they operate like a cruise ship. Yeah, it's harder to experiment and to be dynamic and, agile. We're going to see other companies leapfrog these household names, but it's not too late. So, right, don't let that be the thing that holds you back. Okay, so what else do we need to know? Okay, one of the trends I'm seeing is the divide between the technologists and business decision makers, leadership, whether that's C-suite or it's, a small team. There is a big bridge. There's a big opportunity here right now. There's kind of a lack of a bridge, but a needed bridge between, I was just in Silicon Valley and listening and learning from some of the most innovative, cutting edge technologists that are just in their world. And it's a bubble basically, right? And then I'm out and about talking and speaking with healthcare companies and speaking to, CPG, different industries all over. And there's this big gap, right, of what is possible and what is coming and what is cutting edge and maybe not even available to everyone yet. And the relevancy and the function that can play now or soon in an actual business. And what it means from a business perspective, meaning the bottom line, right? So being a translator and learning and getting curious right now, asking the right questions versus just looking for all the right answers, that is valuable because not all of the answers are even there yet, right? The technology is still landing, and what is available now is enough for you to get started, right? Whether it's the big platforms of, ChatGPT or Gemini, or looking at your industry and the specific tools that are, let's say, customer service or marketing. There are things out there that are easily accessible, you have access to, that you can be using. But what I'm seeing from this big, the headlines and the spinning and is the tech bubble bursting? Is AI, a fad, or is it actually softer than we thought? Is it being overhyped? Try to stay out of that as much as you can. Definitely keep yourself informed. But a lot of that, the headlines they're being written for the competitors of within that bubble, right? Or for Wall Street. And so focus on what you can control is my point. Try not to get too sucked into a narrative. It's here, it's coming. You have to embrace anything that's going to make a huge impact on talent and time. And it's for our greater good and benefit. It's exciting. If we can't get excited about this, then we're not going to be able to force ourselves to learn and have another thing that just drags us down to make us scared and burn out. So the key is getting excited about it. But try to put the narrative and the spinning over here and just shelve it. You can keep aware or stay aware, but I wouldn't let yourself get too consumed with that. If you work for one of those big tech companies, and I was with them last week and I speak to them and understand that is a whole different ballgame. However, depending on your discipline, you still need to be able to function and use the tools that exist now. A lot of this is a discussion around the future, right? Power, where is it going to come from? And I think, and also from a governance standpoint, how are we going to have checks and balances? That's all very, very important. And I'll tell you a story about that in a minute and at the end here. But I think that we can easily get just kind of caught up in that drama. What I can tell you is when we look at the economy, what's happening in tech, and if we see, if you're hearing, is the tech bubble over? Is it overhyped? Or is the tech boom over? Here's what I can tell you. Okay, when we look at the tech sector as a whole, year over year, it's still growing. It may not be growing at the same pace as previous years or previous quarters, but it is still up and to the right, and it will continue to be. That is a given. We know capital expenditure is accelerating. We know that we're still very early with AI, and the lift from the global economy down the road, 3 to 5 plus 8 years, a lot of the financial experts and economists are saying, we haven't seen anything like this in a very, very, very long time, what we're about to see over the next, let's say, 10 years. So I would just make sure that you're not kind of letting that detract you from, is this kind of real or not? It is very real. We know that balance sheets are continuing to grow. And, there's a lot of discussion around, are we even investing quick enough? Are we being aggressive enough with AI when it comes to the big tech companies? So I'd kind of put that to rest. All the volatility we're seeing this year, well, we've got an election year. We had rates, right? We didn't know what the Fed was going to do with rates, and now we know. We have macroeconomics. This is just one component. So let's just kind of level set and make sure we don't accidentally take what's going on overall as, oh, that's specifically the tech industry and AI. Not the case. Okay, so what else should we know? Okay, quick timeout. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a longtime listener, thank you so much for being on the ride, and to everyone in between. So a couple ways we can stay connected. I'd love to be synced on social. Amy Jo Martin is my handle on social, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, if you use that, all the things. Also, we can connect through the newsletter. So amyjomartin.com/newsletter is where I share updates, and it's all about value there, right? This isn't spam and promotional. I know the game, and that's not how it works. So you will only get the cool things that I'm seeing that I feel are relevant to Renegades personally and professionally. And it's fun, it's exciting, and hopefully you can join us there. Also, subscribe to the podcast. That would be amazing. We're on all the big platforms. Also, put this podcast on YouTube. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, so on and so forth, all of the places. Additionally, we have a book. So I wrote Renegades Write the Rules. It's a New York Times bestseller. You can get that on my website, amyjomartin.com, or find it on Amazon or wherever. And then we do have a accelerator that we will be announcing. So the Renegade Accelerator is, if you're new here, something that we lead for female leaders, executives, founders who are really looking to take their game to the next level. And it's agnostic. It's among corporate as well as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people in venture capital, people in healthcare, physicians. It's across nonprofits. It's across every industry, and that's the value. But senior level women who are learning to amplify their voice, get on more stages, share their thought leadership, get on boards, start investing. We have investing opportunities and teach how to do that. But more than anything, it's a container of a hug and a bit of a kick in the ass, as well as a lot of value exchange from an intellectual capital standpoint. So that's my spiel. You can go to renegade@amyjomartin.com and just put the word Renegade Accelerator in the subject line. We can get you more info, or go to renegade.global. And you can click in and learn more. So we'll be launching dates for the next one soon. More than anything, thank you for being here. And we have 300 some episodes in our archive here, so you can dig back. Most of them are extremely evergreen, so you wouldn't even know when they were aired, and some brilliant minds. So thank you for being here, and back to our conversation. One of the things I keep hearing and seeing is, because this has just been a very perfect storm season for not just this year, but the last couple of years, it's been dicey, and especially with the economy and macro trends and economics. What I'm seeing and hearing is, okay, is AI going to make me money or save me money? And of course, long term, the answer is both. But this is where that bridge between the technologists, the computer scientists, what's happening, down in the depths, versus leadership, decision making, getting real stuff done, and dealing with the day-to-day business and keeping customers and clients happening is having the biggest divide. So from a P&L standpoint, profit and loss, we know there are two ways to make money. It's to increase revenue or decrease expenses, right? That's profit. So we want to grow our profit margins, and hopefully both are going to happen down the road. It's likely, though, in the very beginning, the upside of AI, we're going to be able to use it to increase revenue first. And that means accelerating what's already working, right? Higher volume, being able to use it for customer service, for lead gen, all of these kind of blocking and tackling moves, that's more likely going to happen first, because we're going to be able to accelerate in higher volume and convert in higher volume. When we look at the savings side, right? Decreasing expenses. And you hear a lot of people, oh, so-and-so company is decreasing headcount, or we should be decreasing headcount. Or maybe your supervisor or boss or C-level is saying, we need to decrease the amount of resources by X%. Yeah, and that's a KPI. Okay. So if that kind of top-down demand is happening, what you can do is help translate and educate also the reality of, well, it takes humans to train and prompt and understand how AI can help us first, right? To test it, to make sure there isn't a liability. We need agents, double checking and checking the agents right now for almost insurance agents for insurance purposes, because if you're a brand, you have to be able to trust that what this technology can do, these agents can do forward facing, is safe for you and your brand and the health of your brand. So think of kind of this, okay, is it profit, loss, which one's first? First, we just need to understand how it impacts our day, how it can help us, test it, get more familiar and curious, and then you're more likely to increase output and conversions, increase revenue before we're decreasing cost. And I have this analogy. It kind of landed on me because, it's easy for, I think, CEOs or business leaders to read a headline and then say to their team, hey, we need to decrease headcount in this department by X% this year. And it's like, hold up. Okay. First of all, you might be able to create a lot more efficiencies in other ways and decrease headcount. But if it's specifically because of AI, that's what the demand is, then this is an opportunity for you to show the reality, right? And the day-to-day use. And has it landed for you? Are you actually able to decrease those human hours or headcount? Or do you need to test more? What's really happening here? Because the analogy, back to the analogy, which I mentioned that I have, is it's like a lightsaber, saber, right? I'm not a big Star Wars person. Let's say a lightsaber lands in your lap, right? And it's this thing, and it's like powerful. You don't know what it is. It's amazing. It's mystic, and it's like magic, but it is just swinging all over, and you don't even know how to control it. You don't know how to use it. You don't know what it's supposed to be used for. Don't turn off the electricity yet, right? Like, keep what's working, test and figure out this thing. Then maybe start decreasing after you know it's going to work and you know how to create results from it. So it's just, these narratives can easily get kind of caught up, and then we spin around what we're hearing in the headlines or what we're hearing outside. Don't worry about that. Focus on what you can do and what you can test and try, right? Definitely be all ears to people who are getting curious, but this is also not a time for big consensus. Leaders are looking for the hand raisers, the figure it outers, the question askers, and willingness to experiment. Nobody went to school for this necessarily. If you're a technologist, maybe yes. But all these other disciplines, this is new to everyone. So there's a situation where it was a company, this leader was looking for someone to kind of step up and take on a role that she needed, specifically relevant to artificial intelligence and how it bridges and how it impacts that specific department and discipline. And she had kind of this study buddy and someone that was helping her learn and curious, and they were learning together and keeping each other updated and just experimenting and leaning in. Well, eventually this leader said to the individual, hey, I'd like for you to take on this role. And it was specifically kind of translating and being able to be that function of AI. And the individual said, okay, you realize I'm not an expert, right, in AI. And she basically was saying, like, you will be soon. She's betting on her because she's proven that she'll raise her hand, she'll test, she's not afraid to experiment. We can't fail when we're experimenting. If we're not experimenting right now, we are failing, though. So that's kind of a cool, example. Another example, I have a good friend. He is in leadership in HR for a really big company. And he's just been personally really excited and leaning in and getting comfortable with specifically ChatGPT, but also some of the tools relevant to HR. And his experimentation, both personally and within the company, is making him the expert, per se, right, within. But also, he's able to understand how it's going to help. And he's now being asked by other companies, will you come in and share what you're learning for us? So it's not just internal expertise. This could trampoline your career in a lot of ways, right? Okay, so I want to share one quick thing that really resonated with me. I love to learn about the history of technology, right? And a few quick stories. One, if you want to double click and kind of understand where we are, there are these cycles and this kind of adoption of technology and innovation that are similar each time we see a big influx. And let's just take actually the bicycle. So any kind of big, either reinvention or big moment in innovation, we see these trends. But with the bicycle, if you look back, the amount of fear there was about the invention of the bicycle was incredible. Like thinking that the bicycle was evil and it was going to scare the horses, and what the protocol was legally, or just what you had to do if you were on a bicycle and you saw a horse, or like just the amount of what we would call ridiculousness now about bicycles. When it was early, it was pure fear, right? And pure reaction that was kind of dictating the moment. That's not uncommon. So there are kind of three phases of that innovation cycle. And one is denial, right? We already saw that. So in 2016, I had Mark Cuban on the podcast, very first episode ever. And we were talking about this. And I had a keynote titled "The Future of Technology is the Future of Humanity." We can link to it in the show notes too. And so to the episode with Mark Cuban. And I remember, talking about a lot of these things we're talking about today, but it just hadn't landed yet. It wasn't here yet. There was so much denial. And so it's really interesting to go back and listen to what Mark was doing in our discussion around AI in 2016. So first is denial. We're beyond that, although there's still a lot of, if you're still in denial, catch up to phase number 2, right? The second stage or phase is excuses, all the reasons why it won't work, right? So we're heavily in that now. I'd say the early adopters and the trampoline like leapfroggers, the people who will accelerate and benefit the most of it, are beyond that. But that is normal. We are going to hear all the reasons why this doesn't work, all the reasons why it's bad, all the reasons to fear it. This is history, right? Not just AI, or not just social media or the internet. It is just anything big and new. And, a lot of people talk about the steam engine. So the third is it's now fighting for power, right? It is where we get that elbowing, that kind of race that you're hearing about, which is a real race. However, this is the power struggle. This is where there's the realization of, okay, what this is, AI, open sourcing talent and time, radically manipulating and multiplying it. It's technology, but it is so transformative that there will be such a shift in power, and there's a lot of power up for grabs. So that's the third phase. And that's a lot of what I'm seeing in companies is across each, probably stage 2 and stage 3, being up in Silicon Valley with some of the biggest companies that are in that bubble. Oh yeah, you feel it's dicey. It is really dicey. It's also dicey in industries and brands that are realizing they're going to be left behind if they don't really adopt and embrace, because relevancy, but also cost. And, at any given stage, wherever you are, there is you got to be on it and hustle and hurry up. But first you got to get excited. Otherwise it'll never happen. Okay. I'm going to share a couple of ways I've been able to get excited about AI and maybe demystify it a little bit for you. I've been using ChatGPT for a while and always get that new version and see the difference. I've seen a huge difference between the versions, right? And imagine this as like a buddy that's learning about you, right? So the more you can give it, that's not proprietary. I definitely don't endorse that. Don't give it a bunch of data that you don't want it to have or to be open, especially if you work for a company or if you are a business owner or a leader. We got to be careful of that, of course. However, give it as much information, knowledge about you as possible, or what you're thinking, what you're problem solving for, and it's learning, right? So I gave it, I've done some interesting things. So I'll share in the next episode more about what's up with the acrobatics and doing the flips on stage now for my keynote speeches and the dancing and all that jazz. And so that's the story for another day. But I was training to do my regular keynote in front of 9,000 people, but for the first time incorporating acrobatics and dance. And so real flips, right? I'm not a gymnast, but it's my why not now. So I was taking ChatGPT along with me as I'm going through this process. The next episode on Why Not Now will be me talking through the 5 Renegade rules of how I went through this process and continue to, of turning 45 and deciding I want to start doing acrobatics, and why not? And it started with Dancing with the Stars, but I digress. So if we look at ChatGPT, I would give it all my information. Okay, I want to learn this trick. Okay, I'm trying to create a better training schedule. I'm on the road these days. Here's my schedule. I need X amount of training, both for the keynote and for the acrobatics, and then some full out performances, rehearsals. Where do I fit it in? How do I fit it in? And it would break down and give me, take 10 minutes a day and do this part. Okay, you need 20 minutes every other day and do this, like down to the literal schedule, right? Then I would give it more information. Like I'd say, oh, that's not possible because I'm actually going to be on that day because I'm going to be on a plane or XYZ. And so it would make micro adjustments. And I call it my Renegade agent. And my Renegade agent, who I feel is female, she knows me. I call her that. And it's like, I feel like I have a relationship with this agent. But it becomes kind of a voice of reason or a partner in the day of, hey, can you help me with this? It could be personal. It could be business. I know that sleep and screen time are my biggest KPIs for how I perform and how I feel. So I'm sharing that with Renegade Agent, and they're keeping an eye on it too, but also kind of being checks and balances. One day I was driving to the airport and I was curious. I was running a little behind. I'm in an Uber and I asked ChatGPT, hey, how long will it take me to get through security today? I have TSA pre-check. I have clear. It's Tuesday, June, whatever. And I'm in Austin, Texas on American Airlines. And I don't know if it's pulling in, there's an API somewhere that is pulling in some TSA data. I don't know. Or maybe the security check schedule and whether it's behind or not that given day, but it was down to the minute accurate. And I'm not going to rely on that. However, I'm testing it. It was down to the minute, pretty much told me. And it could have been previous year's data. However, I'm just playing here. I'm asking it questions and getting it to learn who I am. And that's key. I think the other thing that we really want to be doing is making sure if your company or your institution has rolled something out, like for example, one of the military branches rolled out their version of AI, ChatGPT, built on it, it's secure. And I was speaking at a conference the day before and spoke to a gentleman, very senior, who's actually kind of on the tech side. I said, okay, so what are you thinking about it? It just rolled out. How is it working for you? And they hadn't downloaded it yet. And I said, yeah, you might want to do that, right? The next day is the conference. They did. They downloaded it, started playing with it. And sometimes that's the biggest barrier. With action comes clarity, right? We often wait for some more stability to take that first step or to launch into the new thing. But the steps to take first are what we need in order to create that stability. So you got to dive in, but you got to get excited about it. What can we do for upskilling? What should humans be focused on in order to be competitive and make the most out of this season? So one of the things is storytelling. Steve Jobs said, "May the best storyteller win." Why did he say that? Well, scientifically, we know that story changes human behavior quicker than anything else. So through the power of story, we can persuade, convert, create emotional connection, all of the things, more so than telling someone a bunch of data of why they should do something. Yes, if we wrap the two together, it's an amazing 1-2 punch. Wrap a story around some amazing data. There we go. But we have to become really good storytellers. And what obviously AI can help a little bit with copy. You can put in and ask an agent to, echo a certain type of tone or voice, or you could say, I want you to put this in Amy Poehler's tone or style, or, choose anyone on this planet. I'd like for you to make this feel and sound a little bit like Abe Lincoln. Whatever reason, I'd like you to turn up the comedy 20%, turn down the comedy 5%, turn down the corporate speak. Like we can do that, but as humans, we still need to be extremely sharp storytellers, because right now our persuasion is important, not only for our own careers, but for being able to convince and share with clients, customers, as well as internal stakeholders or venture capitalists, what it is that we're trying to do, whether it's AI involved or not, but, be convincing. So storytelling is a place that you can dive in. If you're not sure what to do right now, go learn something, get excited, start experimenting, and then practice these skills that you're going to need. It will be a long time before an agent can rock up and do what a human can do in a meeting, right? That is not going away anytime soon. So the power of persuading through story, really, really key. We can do a separate episode on just top storytelling tips and tricks another time, note to self. But that's one of the things I'm speaking about a lot. A big hospitality brand, I'm getting ready to go speak and do some training on storytelling, because it is so critical right now, not only internally, but externally. Okay, speaking of storytelling, there was a moment in 2011 when I realized the power of technology and the fact that the future of technology is the future of humanity. And here's what happened. March 11th, 2011, the day of the Japan earthquake. So I'm on my elliptical. It was one of the new iPad versions that I'm checking out, scrolling through social media. Also, there is a television that has the regular news up here, right? And so this is all unfolding and happening. The TV is looping the same images and video footage of the mass destruction of the earthquake, but also what was happening next. And it was just scary. But they had their footage for the night, and it was just looping the same thing over and over. But social was alive, right? Real time. And given the following that I have on social, over 1 million people, I felt like I should be doing something. I could see people needing help in different ways, dial out codes, maps of where the tsunami was going to hit next in which region at what time. Like first respond, like people were trying to tag each other. It was scary, right? This was happening. And so I went upstairs, sat at my kitchen table, and literally just started to share information from one set of hands to the other to amplify it, because I didn't know what else to do. And everybody else was doing a similar thing. Everybody wanted to help. I just had a decent following to hopefully be able to get this information into the right hands quicker, or help kind of open source it and spread it quickly. I realized that with a click of a button, anyone could potentially save someone else's life from across the globe. And I still get goosebumps. It was the most powerful realization that we're only bound by the speed of technology, which is lightning fast. There are no geographic barriers. We can use AI, we can use social media, we can use anything tech related for good or for evil, right? And so we choose as humans. I encourage you to get curious and get involved, because your involvement will help shape the way this goes. And if you think you don't have a voice, you're wrong, right? Everybody right now is helping shape where this goes based on supply and demand, and what's working and what isn't, what features are wanted. And if you're keeping your eyes open and you're in the meetings and you're in those rooms, you can also be that voice of reason when it comes to humanity and what's right. There will come a time soon when people are having to choose between their jobs and what's right. And that is real, and that's happening. If not already, you see the headlines. But you have persuasion and power and influence that you may not realize. So got to get in the game. Another example of that is, it was 2008-ish. 2008. And I was helping Shaquille O'Neal with his social media presence, right? A lot of you have heard this story, but I'm the head of director of new media or digital media and research at the Phoenix Suns in the NBA. And I get a call, and it's Bob from basketball operations. Amy Jo, get down to the locker room right now. Shaq wants to learn how to tweet, and nobody else in this building knows what that means. Click. And I'm using Bob to protect everyone's names. The name wasn't Bob. So I had a choice. I wasn't supposed to go interface with the athletes and the players. I was in digital. I'm a marketer. Like, that's not the use. You ask permission. You need permission and approval. I go over the elevator and decide I'm going to go meet Shaquille O'Neal today and help him, with the power of this communication tool. How cool is that? And I'm in front of the elevator. And by the way, I had never met a celebrity before. I'd never taught a celebrity anything. I'm a small town girl from Wyoming, right, who grew up in a trailer park. And this was very, very new. But as those doors opened and I stepped in, I now look back and realize that moment was like stepping across the starting line and the very first step into a launch pad, a trampoline for my life and career, and macro impact that had on the trajectory of my life and career. And then started working with Shaquille. He said, what do I say? I said, you don't brand yourself, you are yourself. That creates a brand. So let's really focus on that fact that humans connect with humans, not logos or, personalities that don't feel real. Who's the Shaquille behind the Shaq? Who's the human behind the brand? And who's the person behind the professional? That's what you should be asking right now. Sharing who you are, why you do what you do, as a way to connect and persuade to get where you want to go, especially in this moment of it's a land grab. You get to choose your own path, right? Well, fast forward, start working with Shaquille, eventually start my first company. He becomes my first client. Then it's all the big brands, it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and huge global corporate brands. But there was a moment where I called the Twitter office, and I think there were like 11 people that worked there at the time. And I said, hey, we have a challenge here. People are pretending to be Shaquille O'Neal online, on Twitter specifically, and he has all these imposters, and it's creating confusion. And I mean, from a monetization standpoint, endorsement deals, like that's going to be a challenge in the pathway. But also, people were pretending to be tweeting from the bench during the game, during live broadcasts, and during when he was supposed to be playing, and it was causing some drama. And so they said to me, hey, we're working on this blue checkmark thing to verify and authenticate who people are, and we're going to give him the first one. And you know what? You're going to get one too, because he keeps talking to you on this platform, and we want people to know real is talking to real human. Well, asking and calling and prompting and sharing that challenge with this huge platform that had the power to make a change and shift was a moment. And we're having those blue checkmark moments right now. And it's exciting. And the application of this in healthcare is mind-boggling and so exciting. I can see it somewhat from the front lines because of Circle AI, which is the company that I am involved with, but there are many others it's going to radically help us from a healthcare and longevity standpoint. And there's so much pain that process and that old system, that broken system is creating. Well, these unlocks of insights and data and information that it's been there. We just haven't been able to organize it or consume it and make sense of the insights to then make changes and create innovation out of it. That's been the missing part. Well, that's happening now. It's starting to happen. So the excitement and the opportunity here is endless. To recap, a 5% edge becomes a 500% edge quickly. You can renegade your IDP, your individual development plan. There are no rules right now, right? Renegades write the rules. This is the absolute best time for being a renegade. Positive disruption, not destruction. And, as leaders, we're looking for those hand raisers, those figure it outers. And we need to see that in ourselves as well. And we also are going to have healthy tension. That is part of the game. Anytime we innovate, reinvent, or see these like quantum leap moments, especially in technology, huge moments of adversity and opportunity, but lead into the healthy tension. Renegades eat healthy tension for breakfast, right? You can be direct and kind. You can be clear and kind. You don't need full consensus from everyone all the time. You will not get anything done if that's what you're looking for. And so align with the people who are like-minded, who want to be aggressive, and know that it's going to feel a little bit dicey, but that means you're in the good stuff if that's how it's feeling. And you get to choose. You get to choose that next best brave step. These moments are fascinating to me. I'm here to help. This is just the beginning. There's so much more I want to share. But let me know if it's helpful. And hopefully this makes you feel a little bit more excited and a little more, safe per se, because you have more education and you understand the lay of the land more. A lot of people are looking for safety right now in the wrong places from their companies. It's never been their job to make you feel safe from, outside sources, but safety is an inside job. And if we want psychological safety, perceived safety, we have to control what we can control, right? Go learn something, upskill, experiment. If it's fear about your job, completely understandable, nobody's safe. And this notion of, corporate safe, that's always been a bit of a inaccurate statement, but maybe it felt that way before, and those days are over. But you can create more career insurance and safety by learning, experimenting, speaking up, and being willing, feeling safe yourself by doing different things that you can control. So you're bringing good suggestions that aren't fear-based, right? Because when we show up brave, we actually are much more likely to make suggestions and decisions about the business that will impact it positively versus trying to play it safe. There's this, I always say, you're more likely to drown in the sea of sameness than get eaten by a shark in uncharted waters. And that's the situation right now. So show up in a way where you are making an impact. And it's not just resilience, it's also adaptability. Resilience can easily tip us into burnout and overdrive and cause major problems because we're doing the same thing over and over under completely different circumstances. If the old playbook doesn't work, we got to adapt. Yes, we have to hold on, still be resilient and be tough to a certain extent, but also ease up in certain areas to be open-minded. It's kind of like a golf grip, right? So much better when we ease up a little bit. But you can only hold that turbulence for so long, so we have to adapt because we can't white knuckle or willpower our way through things for very long. And that's going to be a differentiating factor. So, go learn something, learn about your finances. Maybe there are things you can do, a side gig that you actually wanted to start on the weekends. That might create just enough psychological safety that allows you to show up different in your job. I'm going to end with this. We were always told growing up, be brave, but we were never necessarily taught how. Like literally, how do I manufacture bravery? And that's what I love. That's what I do. That's what I've been decoding for decades now. And so the Renegade rules, if you're here because you've heard them before, maybe heard me speaking or read Renegades Write the Rules, they really do work. I apply them daily to my life. Little plug. And they've unlocked, a greater capacity, a greater joy. And I can't wait to share more about the acrobatics and the flips. Next time, I'll go through the 5 Renegade rules in the next episode. Thank you for meeting me back here. We have 322, actually it's more than that because we haven't even aired all of them. Let's just say 400 episodes probably. Those published 322. The last one was Guy Kawasaki, who we talked about AI too a bit, not the whole thing. He's incredible. And one of the most innovative minds out there. So you can dig into the archives. Thanks for being along the ride. We've been at this game for a long time, and it means a lot that you're still here. So appreciate you. And if you're new here, welcome. Feedback's welcome too. All right. Take care.